The deadly attacks on the Michigan church 2 Sundays ago and the synagogue in England last Thursday on Yom Kippur are sadly not as rare as they ought to be. Attacks on places of worship have been on the rise.
Hamline University of Minnesota reports there have been 379 violent incidents at churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples in the U.S. since 2000. 487 people have been killed. Now, some of the most devastating attacks include 26 killed and 22 wounded at the First Baptist Church in Sutherland Springs, Texas in 2017. I was living in that community at the time. I remember that. 11 worshipers killed at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 2018, and 6 killed at the Sikh Temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin back in 2012.
Security experts warn that places of worship are sometimes seen as soft targets, making protection and preparation crucial. Allison?
So with more on how communities can stay safe right now, we're joined by David Katz, CEO of Global Security Group and a former U.S. federal agent. David, thanks so much for being here. It's awful to read about how, of course, they're soft targets. I mean, of course, by definition, churches and mosques and synagogues want to be open to the community. So how can religious communities begin to protect themselves?
That is a fantastic question. So you have a situation where congregants should feel welcome. They should feel it's a place of safety and security, a place where they can connect to God and their religion. Unfortunately, that openness sometimes reflects itself in being a soft target, or at least perception, as this is an easy place to attack. So that's got to change. There is no excuse whatsoever for any house of worship in this country to not avail itself of the hundreds of millions of dollars available through federal and state funding that is specifically earmarked for security upgrades. So there can be money appropriated for physical security, technological security, or the hiring of security officers. It's all available, and it's shame on a church or synagogue or mosque that doesn't apply for it.
When we look at a small congregation versus a large one and we talk about security, how does that differ in strategy and rollout?
That's a fantastic question. So smaller congregations clearly have smaller budgets. Larger congregations can afford to put in the infrastructure. So the way we do it is we have each individual congregation first form a security committee. It's very often that your congregants have a lot of skills, talents, and backgrounds to bring to the table. So you might have current or former law enforcement officers. You might have former military members, or just lay people who have a commitment to keeping the congregation safe. So you identify those people, you train together, you make them uh, go through a variety, whether it's firearms training, whether it's just conducting drills and evacuation exercises, things like that. And that's how you do it with a small budget.
How do you recommend balancing the spirit of welcome and faith communities with necessary precautions?
Well, the first thing you do is harden the structure. If you make it physically difficult for someone to get inside the building, that's halfway there. To your point directly, usually it's the lay congregants who have the best familiarity with the congregation at large, who comes here on a regular basis, who is just an active member of the congregation, who isn't. You train as part of the training. You try to notice. You try to focus on things like the warning signs of violent behavior. We look at body language, we look at the way a person's communicating with you, and you make an assessment. Very often, a person is going to a house of worship at the worst time in their life. They might have just lost a family member. There may be something horrible going on in their personal life. That sometimes manifests as weird behavior. So you have to be able to discern whether this is a person is in spiritual need, or is a person is a person who's a threat.
And David, do you find that when smaller communities avail themselves of the federal grants that you were talking about and put in camera systems or a reinforced entryway or a guard, do they report back to you that it does affect the feeling and the mood of what they're trying to do there?
You know, a lot of people have noted that to me. They say, well, we don't want to make this feel like an armed camp. I get this with my own rabbi. Then you do an informal poll of the people as they come to services, and you ask them, what do you think? What do you think about the armed guards out front or the new security enhancements? And without exception, we love it. We feel comfortable. We have our children in the building. We appreciate you being here to keep us safe.
Yeah,
Well, thanks,
David
Greg.
Katz, thank you.